or karyakartas. But if you look at something like the education policy, it is made by people, bureaucrats, right? I think it should be made by stakeholders. So a few years ago, I was in OMR in Chennai. I went to meet a friend of mine who's a chartered accountant who runs this huge outsourcing center. And so I went to the 6th or 7th floor, and there was an ocean. There were like 1,000, youngsters sitting in tight cubicles with cameras. And I thought I was in a prison, and it was so claustrophobic. And I said, how? So I asked him, I said, Vidyadhar, how do these people stay? Day after day. So he says, these are the kids that get educated in the, the state board. They have no skills. So after 10th or 12th, they sign a contract for 2 years. And they are basically bussed from the slums or whatever and brought in here to do transcription work. So the first year is training. And I said, after 2 years, how many people stay? What's your attrition? He said 100%. The day their contract finishes, all of them vanish. So he says the first year we teach, the second year we get, some kind of work out of them. And that's how this game works. So he's a stakeholder. He should be part of the education policy. Or a parent who struggles to put their kids through, knows the ups and downs, ins and outs. Look at all the mothers that struggle with their children, putting them through. Or somebody who are teaching students who read history books and say this doesn't make sense, but yet I'm forced to teach the kids. So these are people who are stakeholders, and they should be an active part of the policy, not just bureaucrats. I have nothing against bureaucrats, they're really smart people, but they can't be subject matter experts from election commission to education, right? So this is something we can do. We are not doing. As far as Indic knowledge systems are concerned, I think absolutely yes. I've done it personally myself. I've educated 2 boys in the Western system and with Ganita Shastram, Sanskritam, things like that. Not out of nostalgia, but because of relevance. It makes them think differently. It gives a different drishti. For example, Ganita Shastram has ideas of encryption. Like you use Bhuta Sankhya where, it's all in beautiful poetry. And when they say Surya or Chandra, it's 1. Because there's only 1. So one has to sort of decrypt and say, oh, when you see Surya, it's 1. So there are ways of, and then Katapayadi system. There are different ways of encryption in Ganita. So these are concepts that young children are exposed to, and so they are very relevant. It's not because of nostalgia. But of course, many of us ourselves have not been exposed to this kind of education. So it takes, it's very difficult to find experts. So you have to first create curriculum. You have to convince parents and others that this is actually good and it benefits students. And then you have to also train teachers, because you have teachers that know Sanskritam but not Ganitam, but who know mathematics but not Sanskritam. So this is a huge task which only the government can take on. But nobody in the government knows anything about all of this. Neither will they let stakeholders and others take charge. So it's not like we can't do it, we don't have the resources, but we just don't do it in the right way.
Ma'am, this is Panigar. This question is to Vijaya Vishwanath. This is Panigaran, I'm from Hans, India. When we are talking about education, I wanted to refer few case studies. There is a general practice of women wearing flowers in their hair, but it's a very centuries old practice. No, by doing this, in fact, seasonally they used to change those flowers. If we really look into the impact of it, they were really supporting hundreds of floriculture farmers. There are some women who used to come and sell, and there is a lot of areas there. So this way, if you look at, say, before invasions, like Muslim invasion, the purchasing capacity of women, or this Indian, particularly in South India, this is more than besides their counterparts in the European. But still, increasingly, if we look at into the women's studies area, these people are labeled as kitchen birds. So here there are case studies that are there, but why is it that our women study people are not looking at these things?
I think Rajiv can answer that. I basically think we as a generation do not understand many issues civilizationally. Because I look at the society at large, people do not understand the ideas, the metaphysics of the Indic civilization, where everything is connected, everybody is involved, everybody has a role, everybody has an obligation to the collective. In fact, in the Varna Jati caste book, which we released just a couple of weeks ago, we talk about how you get an identity. In the West, you have identities, these sort of synthetic identities that are given based on somebody deems you marginalized, or based on gender or sexuality or some other criteria. They're all sort of artificial. Whereas in the Vedic system, you got an identity when you had an obligation. So as a brahmacharya, you had a dharma. This is your obligation. You are supposed to study. As a grahastha, you got the identity of a grahastha only because you had an obligation, a contribution, to the larger, yajna, as Rajiv talks about in some of his books. So you get an identity not for sort of rights, but you get an identity. If you're a woman, you have a stri dharma. You are a purusha, you have a purusha dharma. So even if gender, there is a dharma, a kula dharma you have. So any identity that you have, varna, ashrama, whatever it is, the identity is given to you just for a brief period. It doesn't last forever, and it is there because you have you have an offering to the collective, right? So these are ideas that we don't understand. We just say, we take Western ideas and then superimpose it on our society, and then struggle to find ways, and we also agree with them saying, oh yeah, these are marginalized, this is caste. We don't understand the difference between what is varna, what is varna dharma, So these are fundamental issues with us. Going back to our very first question, we do not know who we are, we do not know where we've come from, we don't have the attention span to learn, even if we don't know. So when you're like that, then all these sort of problems are sort of the result of having being ignorant about your civilizational roots.
So another question to Rajiv sir. There is a kind of dichotomy which we see these days, particularly in case of Hindus. They celebrate a lot of festivals which are in a way aligned to natural geometry, derived from the life-centric cosmology of Hindus, or Sanatana, whatever. So on the one hand, these people celebrate all these festivals and use all that symbols, their rituals and everything goes on. On the other hand, the parents, they insist their children to be experts in physics, maths, and English, and this. If you really look at the background of it, the word Usis is there in ancient Greece, and here Prakriti. Both are the concepts are both are similar. Then Usis has turned into physics natura, then to physics. Means life-centric cosmology too. It was reduced to the level of materialistic cosmology. From there, the controlling of nature, all materialistic principles, science, application, all these started there on that side of the continent. So here the children are not able to grasp the overall cosmology of science. So on the one hand, they are pulled towards a materialistic direction. On the other hand, they have to keep up their own tradition. It's almost like Cartesian dichotomy that they are subjected to. How to resolve this?
So you're raising an interesting question. That the practice of dharma has reduced to symbolism. That's what you're saying. And people do not understand the metaphysics, the philosophical, the cosmological dimension, which is important. Even to understand the rituals and symbolism, you need to understand the metaphysics. People don't know. And if they understood the metaphysics, then what they are doing in physics, chemistry, math would make more sense. They would know the context. Because they would know the context in which this understanding of matter and material causation, but physics is material causation. Okay, that's what physics is. So material causation is very nice and very important. It's very practical. You can make engineering marvels out of it because you need to know how it works. But it is limited in what it can do. You can do a lot more if you understood cosmology. And then there are so many other higher levels of knowledge that can be very practical also. So the issue is we don't have teachers who teach all that. So the gurus are not teaching that, and that is their job. We are giving them unlimited money. They have no shortage of money, no shortage of reputation, prestige, clout, power, none of that. No shortage of number of followers. They have no excuse for the gurus not to take on these topics and say, my job is to educate the whole masses on these matters. Because they have the adhikar, people will go to them and listen what they are saying. Even more than the government, I think the gurus have responsibility there. That's how I feel about it. And so, you know, there's no shortage of where the problem can start being solved. But we need that initial ignition, that fire. Either government has to solve it or gurus have to solve it. Somehow it has to be solved. My worry is we're running out of time. My worry is that the solution, the capturing of the mind is going to go more and more very rapidly into algorithms controlled by foreign people. These algorithms are the new devatas. These algorithms are the new adhikaris, the new gurus. People are bowing to them in social media, and education is coming through algorithms. Judiciary, some legal system, how you hire a person, all the personnel departments are using algorithms and AI to figure out who's qualified. So we are being run by artificial intelligence, which is run by big data, and the training of these AI systems is largely being done by the people who own all these algorithms, not Indians. So we are being colonized by algorithmic colonization. This because we are not smart enough, we are not controlling ourselves, we are not thinking strategically. Others are filling that gap, that vacuum of power, which is why I wrote this book, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Power, 5 Battlegrounds. That is what this is not a book or technical book. It's a book on philosophy, policy, social implications, exactly like what you're saying. You identified a problem, that there is a gap. And in my work, I've identified that because of this gap, and we are not doing anything about it, this gap is being filled by new technology. It's like the new teacher, the new guru for us.
So, 2 small questions. After this, we're going to end this session. We're going to have a one-on-one interview for you, sir. So, 2 last questions to take. I request you to keep the question straight.
Hello sir, this is Tikasha from Deccan Chronicle. The question is, as a younger generation, I want to understand, have we become less tolerant as a society now, or it has always been the case more or less, and now we see more of it because of the social media, things are coming out so easily and so quickly. So has it been the same or it has been changing? And if so, what are a few reasons that you can cite for that? Thank you.
So by less tolerant, you mean social conflicts?
Yes.
So social conflicts have already always existed, but now because people are not isolated geographically, they are all, everybody's business is everybody else's business. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing and everybody's saying. So the opportunity for conflict is more. Also there is overpopulation, more and more people competing for fewer resources. So there is competition among communities all over the world. Now the thing that is troubling is that the use of social media to create conflicts is being controlled by other people. It's not our people who control this social media. We do not have our own social media. So what the algorithm will support or not support and who it will deplatform is not up to you or me or anybody in this room. Even our government, they do not have control over the social media, they sold it out. This is a very serious matter. It is the social media which created the Arab Spring uprising, the Hong Kong revolts, all the problems in many countries, including the CAA and all these farmers things and all we had here. There were a lot of hands of the social media, and the social media is not Indian. This is it's a kind of a remote controlled management of the emotions and psychology of our people, and so you will see that these things will happen more and more. Just wait till the next election, there will be a lot more of this.
One last question, sir.
Namaste, I am Shailaja. I am representing Samachar Bharati here. So one simple question. What are your views about this new American ambassador designate to India, who has already declared his intent that he is going to work on the core issues of CAA and so on? So, I mean, how do we face these external onslaughts? It is very much part of the system. So.
Yeah, so we predicted this in our Breaking India 2.0. Read the book. We were telling you where it's coming from. When the moment this guy was considered, this LA mayor and all that, I wrote about it, that this guy is bad news and Indian media should have taken some other stuff and started writing articles. Government can't stop. But if the media and the public outcry, then the foreign country thinks again. So you see, the first test by leaking a rumor, that there is a rumor that Mr. X will be appointed ambassador, because they want to see what is the reaction that comes back. If the reaction coming back is very, very tough and strong, and I wrote that, but Indian media didn't want to even publish my article. Indian media did not even want to publish my article. So, this thing, nobody complained, so it's all become fine. And now it is too late. Now this guy who is the ambassador of US going to come here, believes that he is going to negotiate on behalf of the United States, not with the Indian government, but with individual communities. So he will negotiate with Khalistanis here, Sikhs, and say, okay, what do you want? Are you right? Are you wrong? It's like the British used to adjudicate disputes among Indians. British used to adjudicate. Now American guy, ambassador here, will have better, can invite Nagas, invite Manipur people, invite people from here, the Dravidian people, invite some group here and there, Maoists,